crisis of our time is climate change, and PFM has an important role to play in addressing this crisis. Given that governments decide every year on spending a very significant share of GDP, PFM reforms that incorporate the implementation of climate-sensitive financing policies can have a huge impact on our environment. The paper you are going to discuss shows that procurement, a crucial part of budget execution, can contribute to greener government investments. However, the paper also concluded that we need a holistic approach to make change happen. This is a very interesting result from my perspective, as it confirms my view that we have to include the expenditure and the revenue side into the equation, from taxes to budget execution and procurement.
Very much important, starting from the willingness of government to push this process forward. First, it will be very much important for government to see a real impact on this exercise and on this let's say process. So if someone will be able to tell them to the government that this using green criteria in public procurement in general will cost you such less in long term or in 5 years long now, it will be very much helpful and let's say giving some incentives to government to push the process forward. Meaning that we have to work in two main directions. First, working with both sides, contracting authorities and economic operators, to increase their knowledge on this regard. And second, having into consideration the cost effect of this exercise. So, and here I see the connection with PFM and let's say the input that this financial aspects of the process has to be into consideration. So, and this is our approach up to now as government, as the public procurement agency in charge of this task.
One of the key challenges is cost and capacity to identify the right types of projects, activities, goods. If you are part of the government's public procurement function and you are given the mandate to follow certain policies and to make sure that you prioritize purchase of goods or services which meet certain requirements, taxonomy, categories, etc., how exactly are you supposed to go out there and identify these kind of activities and projects? And this is where the evolution of the global standard setting process, and in particular, introduction by many jurisdictions of sustainability reporting standards, which would complement the existing financial information and which we expect to start really hitting the markets and jurisdictions in the next 2 years. We already have the draft standards which are going to be finalized. Then jurisdictions will decide how they should be applied. And in about 2 years, we will start getting this huge wave of new information when companies would be disclosing information about how they perform in the sustainability area. Indeed, to implement these new standards, it is going to be quite an undertaking. Let's not underestimate the significance of this reform. It's probably the biggest capital markets reform that me and you have seen in our professional lifetime. We have had introduction of the global financial reporting standards. However, that standards were building on the existing standards. Here we have the entirely conceptually new type of reporting, which did not exist before, and which would require a very distinct set of expertise to prepare. So for what it means for countries is that they need to decide how they are going to adopt or adapt these standards, what regulations they are going to pass, and how are they going to prepare their economy for the implementation of these standards in terms of technical assistance, etc.
But despite numerous advantages for organizations, the application of life cycle costing today is still very limited, particularly in the public sector, and it's not a common practice in green public procurement. Our research reveals that it can be viewed as a helpful tool, but it is not a crucial prerequisite for greening public procurement. It is only useful when there actually are post-acquisition costs. And for those products, services, and work groups, it could be made mandatory. We also saw that third-party eco-labeling is a good way to ensure high environmental standards of products, services, and works. It can be included in the public tendering as part of technical specifications or award criteria. And it's really an efficient alternative for incorporating this life cycle principles, life cycle thinking into public procurement.
We have to take into consideration the education and training of audit offices as well, because they are very much important in the, let's say, after part of the competition process. They have to be aware of the fact that if we're using green procurement, or if we are going toward this direction, we'll not getting the lowest price now, but we'll get let's say cost-effective, productive process at the very end after some years of using these products that we have bought now.
If you look at the primary objectives of public procurement, which is the timely and economical delivery of purchase of products, it's like either form of organization has its benefits. Like if you have a highly decentralized system, you can be close to the markets, you know, the suppliers and so forth, and you're closer to the needs. Whereas there are a few benefits with regard to more centralized systems, such as, and that we spoke about today, is, for example, a higher degree of professionalization, and it's just all in all a bit more effective than in terms of also the specific know-how that is needed. So we would not conclude that for the sake of greening, it's necessary to really envisage a full centralization. There are, what we saw, however, is that it's necessary, it requires a lot of cooperation to implement green public procurement. And if there are many stakeholders involved, this becomes more difficult to manage. This is where centralized systems just have a clear advantage.